So, Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 2. I don't think anyone really cared about the result. Make sure you follow Kenny Ken 1972 on Instagram. I don't think anyone really cared about the result. However, I think we more cared about the performance and not getting anyone injured. And when I see the starting 11, I was baffed at how many starters he played. I was baffed at how long some of them stayed on. But I was not baffed at our goalkeeping performance again, because despite liking that goalkeeper and being one of his avid friends of Raya, friends of Raya, this season he's been nothing short of a shambles at times, and he's always out of his goal. And I've called all season, Kenny, this guy's getting lobbed from halfway line, he's getting lobbed. And 30 instances this season it could have happened. Tonight, lo and behold, Palace could have done it 5 times in the game, and Jean-Pierre Mateta actually did it. Timber played 90 minutes. Skelly absolutely bodied Mateta. Big up Skelly, by the way, because that guy's he's bigger than you, Kenny. Balls. And he put him on his bum. And then Mateta gets the ball and bodies our captain, who again was an absolute disgrace. Apart from one decent pass to Martinelli, which was offside anyway, I think. He was awful. Again, our captain's looking at Saliba. Our goalkeeper's out of the frame. Obviously you were at the game, so you can see he's in the frame. No communication. Our finishing was shocking. Sterling was abysmal. And it was almost like they were scared to get hurt. And for me, Kenny, I don't know your thoughts. Obviously, you was at the game and you're telling me the feelings in the ground as well. For me, Kenny, I don't care about the result, win, lose or draw tonight, because we ain't going to win the league. For me, it was the performance. We play like that on Tuesday. You had the ties done in the first leg, mate. Absolute shit show. What do you make of that? Kivior, by the way, fair play to him. Fair play to him, because I thought he was outstanding.
Well, first and foremost, because it's a league, and it was number one target. As much as fans say they don't care, and there are more important things to think about, the fact is that whether we like it or not, the most important statistic in football is the league table, and we are where we should be. We could say that the league was done, but the fact is you picked a very, very strong team in order to give Liverpool a run for their money and come out and put in a good performance in Crystal Palace. The fact is 14 draws doesn't lie. We were on Dan's show yesterday. The statistics of the goal returns of our players doesn't lie. There's no extenuating circumstances. And you know what? The most important stat, the league table, doesn't care about feelings, doesn't care about prejudices, it doesn't care about preferences, and it certainly doesn't care about injuries, allegedly, VAR and sending offs. All it cares about is win, lose, and draw, and that's exactly what happened this season. You can't draw 14 times and expect to win the title. Now we're talking about a game next week and possibly another game, and obviously possibly a final. The fact is, this is a mighty crack. It's not a series of cracks. This is a mighty crack to to paint over. And we better win this Champions League. And the reason I say we better win this Champions League, obviously it's our first time to win the title. But this season has nothing been a season of contradictions. The biggest contradiction is the fact that we could be amongst the top teams in Europe, if not the best team in Europe, yet we were statistically a poor second in the league. So it's an anomaly, isn't it? The best team in Europe isn't the best team in its own league. And it's one of those things where Arsenal fans should, take this opportunity to paper over that massive crack. But the fact is that it's a season of disappointments. The reason why you called out Odegaard, he's one of the reasons why we didn't win the league this season, because his performances are nothing short of shocking. Martinelli's come in a bit of form, but we saw the Martinelli that we've known and loathed this season, not known and loved this season, because that was enough for performance. Thomas Partey, once again, when he makes a mistake, head doesn't go down, he goes hiding, he comes back, and he had a very good second half. Miles Skelly, a very good second half, a very good game today. I thought Timber was at 67, but I thought he played 90 minutes. I thought Saliba was careless again. Again, he's getting into that Des Walker, Sol Campbell territory of thinking, my pace gets me out of trouble. It gets you into a lot of trouble if you think you can rely on it just like that. And of course, Raya again, this rush goalie syndrome that we have in the Premiership and in football in general is going to lend itself to the spectacular, not from your team, but from the opposition. The spectacular came from Jean-Philippe Mateta. Again, he was a threat. Not only was he a threat, Ismail Sarr was a threat. Where they increased the pace, and the reason why they increased the pace is that, don't get me wrong, Palace came for a draw, but when they got their equaliser, they went for the win, and then when they realised that we were stout defensively, they settled for their point. Well, let's just talk about the particulars of the game. First particular of the game is that you've got to praise the fact that we went 1-0 up, and you thought there's going to be an avalanche of chances. You thought there's going to be an avalanche of intensity. That never happened. You know, we left Eze basically unmarked. He had all the time in the world. He hit the ball perfectly for him. May not perfect for the connoisseur, but for him, it bounced, hit the post and went in. The keeper's got no chance. And then we scored just before half time. You think that when we come out, we're going to use that intensity. But because we're not playing with the intensity we should do, because we think the league is over, what happens is that Crystal Palace came back into the game. They capitalised on our mistakes and they targeted a couple of players. The player that is always the target for the opposition, if we're not moving the ball quickly and we're not playing with the intensity, is our captain itself. It's like a cricket situation, like the West Indies, whenever they used to play a thrashing in Australia, they went after the captain. Well, opposition players are going after our captain. They know that he's not at his sharpest. They know that he's not even pressing. They know if you get into him, he's not physically strong enough. Boom, you can put the ball back for him. But he was the only person that was losing the ball. Saliba lost the ball for their equaliser. And again, it was careless. Just be like Brentford a week and a half ago, where, again, we're not playing with that kind of intensity. And teams recognise that. I think, you know what? Crystal Palace are going to come off that pitch. I think, right, we've given a great performance, and that's put us in great stead and great morale for the semi-final. But we could have won this today. We could have won this. And then, you know, there might be a Liverpool fan in the Crystal Palace jersey and think, you know what? I could help the team I really support and win the league. So it's one of those things where the most important statistic isn't, you know, like I said, overwhelms any kind of agenda you may have, good or bad. And the most important thing is that we are where we should be. We should be a full seconds. And there's no doubt about it. You know, the over 38 games, you can't be unlucky 38 times. It has to be because you're not good enough. It has to be that your midfield is not good enough. It has to be that the players that have played well the last 2 seasons haven't turned up. Injuries weren't an issue. Martinelli wasn't injured all season. He's only scored 7 goals. He's been poor this season. Odegaard came back from December. He had a significant injury, but he's come back and he's never been dropped. He's played a lot of games, but because he hasn't been playing with the intensity and hasn't been pressing, he's been substituted. He hasn't been good enough. You know, Saliba has not been at his best this season. We've seen that as such, and we're still in a situation where the debate becomes no debate. The best defender is Gabriel Magalhaes. Declan Rice, despite all the praise he gets, deservedly so, since March, but he's only been playing well since March. Previous to that, he
started that game off really well and then faded real quick.
But even so, if you analyse the season, which you have to do because Liverpool are going to win the league, and they need a point, he's another player who hasn't played at his best this season. You identified the keeper. He hasn't played at his best this season. That's why we won the league. It wasn't because Saka got injured. It wasn't because Havertz has got injured. It's because we haven't been good enough. And we've drawn 14 times. That is not the stuff for champions. I wish people would stop making 13
times. But either way, Kenny, yeah? Right, playing Thomas Partey at right back, we've dropped points every time, yeah? Here's a stat for you, Kenny. Yeah, the top gooners won't put out there. Yeah, we've dropped points 9 times out of 13 when we've been leading games.
Yeah, and why is that, Lee? The reason why that's happened is
because we get complacent, Kenny.
Well, yeah, complacent. Well, that's the thing about this Premiership. The Premiership is the hardest league in the world because it's not the best league, it's the hardest league in the world because at the end of the day, if you take away the garbage that we are to endure, which is Southampton, Leicester and Ipswich Town, all the other teams will give you a game. And if you do not play with the intensity, even the alleged bad teams will think, you know what, this is an opportunity, we'll take it, because at the end of the day, there's no shit players amongst in the Premiership. There's good players and maybe there's average players, but good and average players on their day will win football matches against anyone. Doesn't matter if it's Arsenal, doesn't matter whether it's Leicester City or Southampton. And today, Crystal Palace, just like Brentford, would have gone away, been happy with their point, but
licking their wounds, thinking we could have won that. Same with Leicester. Same with Leicester. Let's go back to the earlier in the season.
Again,
Southampton.
And that's the situation. Even when we had all our players fit, when there was no disputes whether there's injuries or not, we turn up for the big games against our rivals because we wanted to prove that we are better than them. But we only prove we're better than them is when you look at the most important statistic. And when you look at the most important statistic is this Sunday, with a month to go in this season, Liverpool will win the title with a month to go against the team that was meant to be the next cabinet rank, against the team that McKenna and all these other acolytes said they're the most difficult, the most frustrating team to buy. So what?
Yeah, Kenny, that McKenna said we're the best, the hardest and best team we've played against. Yeah,
big deal.
Bro, real talk, yeah. Other than Leicester and Southampton, every team he's played against has been the best team he's played against. Because they're shit.
And that's the thing. The other day, I've got to look at one thing, right? The Premier League table doesn't lie. Like injuries, boo-hoo. VAR, boo-hoo. Suspensions, boo-hoo. It doesn't matter. Who gives a shit?
Kenny, do you know what's mad? Do you know what's mad as well? Sorry to cut in, yeah, and we're going to wrap in a sec, yeah. Right, 2 years straight, yeah. Tottenham have an hand, yeah, in deciding whether the title's over. Last season, our fans were on their knees 14th of May and Son missed. Yeah, are they going to be on their knees again this year? Nearly a year later. Kind of poetic, right?
Yeah, but not really. Let's not forget that most Arsenal fans don't care. The country doesn't care because all the country cares about is Man United and Spurs having the prospect of getting the Europa League final and Arsenal having the prospect of winning the Champions League. I mean, Liverpool are the biggest club in this country alongside Man United. I mean, one of the biggest myths is no one gives a much cares.
Yeah, but do you know what, Kenny? Sorry, I'm going to cut in there because I disagree, yeah? That's the biggest irk for me, yeah? Nobody does care in terms of that all eyes are on Arsenal, Man United, Tottenham, yeah? However...
All social media eyes are on them. All social media eyes are on them.
We should all care, and that is the problem as to why we don't win, Kenny, because we all say, no, you're not saying it facetiously or maliciously, yeah? You're just saying we don't care because we want to win the Champions League. Man U and Spurs are saying we don't care, we want to win the Europa. And Aston Villa, Man City, Palace, Forest go, we don't care, we're trying to win an FA Cup.
Yeah, but that's a myth. That's a myth. Not so much for the other clubs, but it's a definite myth for Arsenal because the holy grail this season was not the Champions League, it was the Premiership, and they all know it.
Facts. And on that bombshell, Kenny, get home safely, mate. Yeah, and you've got 6 days off, Kenny, and make sure, yeah, you're there singing the right out as you always will be. I never dispute that. Yeah, and Kenny, we better beat PSG, mate. Otherwise, I think if we don't win that first leg, I think we're done.
Well, let's just say, end of season podcasts are going to be very interesting and very aggressive and very divisive if we do not win the Champions League. You know it and I know it.
Well, on that bombshell, we're out, mates. Get home safely, mate. Love you.
I will do. Love you too. Yeah.